Hi, my name is Scott Hopper. I'm from Hydra Inc. In this video, we're going to show you a few steps that you would have to go through to convert your Kornit machine over to our KK aftermarket inks. It's really simple. First step, take all your bottles off. We're going to empty the existing ink out of these, wash them out real good. Okay, really simple here. All we want to do is rinse out your ink bottles. Start, get rid of any existing ink. And the only reason I say rinse these bottles out, I've heard, and I don't know for sure, but the manufacturer is not going to be selling ink in these 150 milliliter bottles anymore. So you're going to want to save all the bottles that you have. If you don't want to use the bottle system anymore, you can call us up. We have an aftermarket bulk ink system for these older printers. Very inexpensive, very easy to operate and install. So right now I'm just getting all the dried ink off of the threads inside there. Just do your best, get as much off as you can. If you have one of these, great. Just slip it on there. You can see it's just rinsing out the inside of the connector. Okay, so we'll do that for all 5 colors. And this process is going to be the same if you have a 931 Inca, a 932 Thunder, 931 DS. Any printer that has an RFID system on it is going to require a little bit different ink conversion, but that's another video. If you look, I don't know how well this video is going to show up, but you look at the amount of sediment inside that white bottle. Best way to do it is put a little water in there, shake it, dump it out. Keep doing that a few times until the bottle's clear. You'll notice when you start running our KK inks that the white sediment on our inks is nowhere as thick and heavy as the OEM inks. When our ink does come out of suspension, it's more like a jelly at the bottom of the ink. It's super easy to shake up and reconstitute if that's what you want to do. I'm actually a big fan of not putting all that sediment back in the system, but part of the ink manufacturing process, you're going to have some sediment in your white. Okay, so we'll flush this. See all that white pigment's just hanging around inside there. Almost. There we go. So, okay, after you have all of your bottles cleaned and rinsed out, refill them with the KK ink. Put them back on the machine. And we are ready to start purging. Okay, one thing worth mentioning before we start purging the inks through, there is no flushing process for converting from the OEM inks over to KK inks. The main reason for that being is there's a lot of sediment that collects in the system over the years, whether it's the secondary ink tanks, the degassers, the filters, the lines, the plastic ink brackets that attach to the Spectranova heads. As you push a thinner viscosity fluid through there to try and move all of the ink out, you also stand the chance of breaking loose chunks of built up pigment or binders or sediment, especially in the white. And as those break loose in the ink system, you're going to push them towards the head and clog the nozzle plate. So what we do is we purge 2 bottles of each color through each head. And this is how we go about doing that. You'll change your purge time to 30 deciseconds, making sure that all of your secondary ink tanks are full. You do not want to continue purging until these tanks are full. So if you have any exclamation marks inside any of these, that indicates that the tanks are not full of ink. Definitely do yourself a favor, make sure that you fill them up so you do not introduce any air into the system. I'm just going to fill up this last white head. Okay, I prefer to do these one head at a time, but you can definitely do all the whites and then do the CMYK. Just because I like to go slow with this process, I like to purge one head at a time. So we've set it to 30 deciseconds. We're going to come up and hit purge. Okay, you can see that W4 and yellow are low. We're going to let those refill. If you stick at 30 deciseconds, the 10-second pump cycle should be enough to refill these tanks, so you do not have to go and reset the pump cycle. If you do need to reset the pump cycle, basically you turn that particular color off and you turn it back on, and it resets a 10-second pump cycle from the PLC. So after you've purged an entire bottle through each head, we'll take the bottles off, refill, and then we're going to purge through the manual purge valve. Okay, so we have our ink bottles refilled, and now we are ready to purge out the manual purge valve. It's worth noting I like to change the purge time from 30 deciseconds down to 20, because you will be moving so much more ink through the manual purge valve. I like to purge 4 times through the manual purge valve, and for something like this I definitely only do a few heads at a time. Again, probably recommended to just start with one, so we'll start with W3, which is the front white head. And I just have just a drip tray sitting here. If you want, you can hold a bottle here while you're purging, but this is a lot easier. These are aftermarket one-way valves. You can find these really inexpensive almost anywhere, but if you need them in a hurry, you can order them from Hydra KK. Just go to the website and sign up for a customer number, and I think they're a couple dollars a piece. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and purge on W3. Here we go. Nice thing about having a one-way valve on there is that you do not have to open and close this needle valve. You can just leave them all open, and prevents any air from coming backwards into the system. So that 120 decisecond purge was enough to drain the tank enough where I had to reset the pump cycle. So definitely make sure you fill up that secondary ink tank before you keep purging. Wait for that to refill. Okay, needs another pump cycle. You can see the light flashing. That indicates that your pump is still filling that secondary ink tank. For those of you who don't know what a secondary ink tank is, this little plastic tub here is your secondary ink tank. Incoming line, vacuum purge line, your feed line for the head, your degasser, filter, and down into the head. So definitely do not want to get air in that system if at all possible. It's really easy to remove the air. You're just going to be wasting ink getting the air back out. And this one is full, so now I'm going to purge all 4 white heads just so you can see what that looks like. I changed it down to 10 deciseconds. We'll purge again. See how they look here. We'll open up W4, we'll set it nice and long. Really what you're looking for here is a nice steady stream of ink with no air bubbles coming out. That's nice and steady, so you do that 4 times through the manual purge valves. Come back over. Make sure you do CMYK as well. I'm just going to skip that for now. And after you're done, you will want to make sure you come back over, purge the rest of the ink of the second bottle down through the heads, and then you should be all set. Okay, we're inside of the Kornit software. This is where you want to switch your lookup table around. If you look at the path up top here in the top left hand corner, it's your D drive, the applications folder, the common folder, MediaDB, which is short for media database. You'll come in, obviously these guys have lots of old lookup tables installed here. So let's say that this was the one that they were using. It's the machine serial number 185_5x5, which is your resolution, and April of 2014 was the last time they had it linearized. They did it in 16 also, but in short, what you'd want to do is take the Hydra ink or the KK ink lookup table, which are these that are labeled up here, and we can send these to you so that when you're ready to do the ink conversion, you have them on hand. The easiest way to do this is if you come inside your media database here, okay, and you look at most of your medias are utilizing the same lookup table. So for these guys, it is the 6x6 baseline for KK. That's just what they decided to name it. So you come inside your media database folder and you take your existing lookup table. What I would do is just rename that, keep it the same, and then we're going to call it OEM. Okay? So now, because we've renamed it, your media database is not going to recognize it because we've changed the name. So then you take our lookup table that we provide you, and you name it the same as your original. So let's say we're going to take the KK 6x6. You just rename it, and you're all set. This way, you don't have to go through and swap out your lookup table for every single media that you have inside here. If you do decide to go that route, you just have to open each particular media and change it to the correct setting. It gets a little tedious depending on how many medias you have, and you can see that this particular customer has quite a few. So that's how you replace the lookup table. Okay, one thing I like to do is, prior to doing any of the ink conversion, just take one of your commonly printed files. This is one of my color test files. I print it using your existing ink set and then dry it and set it aside for comparison later. I think after the ink conversion, you are going to notice a considerably brighter white ink. So it's nice to have a sample before and afterwards, so that you know for sure that you've pushed enough of the ink through the system. One surefire way to do that is print this with your existing OEM ink set, convert over to the KK inks, and then once you've pushed your 2 bottles of ink on each color through the ink system, don't switch any of your lookup tables around. Just load a shirt on the palette again, print the same image, and if the white ink is bleeding all over the place, you know that you've successfully transferred over to the KK ink, because the KK ink will need substantially less white ink to achieve a brighter finished white.